Hello, good morning, and what's Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. Yeah, daylight's just breaking out, but just barely. Sky's got a little blue in it. This morning I have two 40% alcohol blended Scotch whiskies. This is McCormick, imported, obviously. Scotch. Okay, that's what it's called. McCormick imported Scotch. Blended Scotch whiskey, aged 3 years, 40% alcohol. Imported and bottled by McCormick Distillery. That's the Halliday Distillery, Weston, Missouri. So it's sent to Missouri and bottled there, or I should say was sent to Missouri. I think it has been discontinued. I do not know that. If I can find the time today or motivate myself to do it, I will contact the company and ask if it's still in production. I'm sort of embarrassed to do that, really. I don't know why I'm embarrassed to call these companies. Looks like a picnic table, tablecloth, yellow and white with red writing and olive green and some gold trim, metallic gold trim. Okay. There's a Scottish bagpiper on there. I don't think this was ever sold except in the United States. I'm almost certain of that. It's not a worldwide brand. It's bottled by McCormick. I don't know who makes this for McCormick. It could be Chivas Brothers for all I know. But it's almost certainly a big Scottish whiskey producer, and they're going to keep the name quiet. Now, the company has records of it, obviously, in case something happened and they need to track back the production of it. So they know who makes it, but they're not going to say. The reason I think it's discontinued is twofold. First, they used to list this on the website, no longer listed. Okay. Secondly, these liter bottles were being sold in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, at a store for $4.99 a liter. Now, if you do find this on websites, they have it listed on Specs liquor store chain of Texas for $18. You say, well, that's still pretty low for a liter of scotch. It is, but that's more in line with reality. $4.99 is crazy. Now that lasted maybe a week at that store, and even had plastic bottles. Those might have been $7.50. I don't remember, but that was strange. I said, look at this, a plastic bottle. I wasn't buying that. But my friend David gave me this bottle. Thank you, David. Glass. And then they were gone. $4.99, they're not going to last any kind of time. No matter how low grade it is, people are going to buy it. Now, we were thinking, oh, this stuff's going to be cheap and nasty. That's what you think. And, it's so inexpensive. But then my friend David was on the phone telling me, that stuff's pretty good. You ought to try it. And I went to his house one day. And after we did some beer reviews, we did try it, and it was good. So just goes to show you, like people say, don't judge a book by its cover. Okay, that applies here because the perception would be very low grade. The reality, it's been very competitive in these challenges. Hasn't won the challenges except it beat Winn-Dixie and Legacy Scotch, which I don't think they're very good at all. They're marginally good, B- type products. Okay. Irish boy says, greetings. What time is it? 42 a.m. here in Ireland right now. Well, it's 5:45 now, 5:45 a.m. Very early. I like the design of the bottle. Yeah, it's nice. Nothing fancy or great, but nice. Joe Cobb says, Canadian news already talking about moving away from an alliance with the United States, which makes no sense whatsoever. Politics, man, ugh. Nice morning, though. Yeah, well, alliances, I did a video about how alliances are unhelpful and even dangerous. The video still posted about alliances, how they don't really help you. People have that illusion that alliances will help them. But ultimately, it drags you into conflicts that you have no interest in being involved with. And yeah, it's just bad business. Anyway, hi, Joe. How is life in Canada now? Yeah, they had an election yesterday and the Liberal Party won. And that's their situation. Okay, here is Chivas Regal 13. Now, about 6, 7, It might have been longer ago than that. They came out with Chivas Regal Extra. I saw it in stores extra. But I don't think it was too long ago. I don't even think it was 10 years ago. And that was a 13-year age. And I thought it was strange. Why would they make a big deal out of one product that was aged an extra year, No, I mean, it's like it's not that big of a deal because Chivas Regal is always a 12-year age, which is pretty good, actually. And I said, oh, yeah, I'll buy it one day, and I never did buy it. And now the website's not showing just the regular extra. All they're showing is barrel treatments, cask treatments. Okay, so this is aged 13 years. Obviously, it says it right there on the face. Selectively finished in American rye casks. And they put a big emphasis on their website about it's finished in rye, not aged in rye. They age it in somebody's oak barrel. We don't know. Could be new oak barrels. I don't know. That's irrelevant. But it's finished maybe for 3 or 4 months. They take it and put it in ex-rye whiskey barrels. Who's rye whiskey? We don't know. And I doubt we'll ever find out. And that gives it a little twist on the flavor. This is a special edition bottle design with different color scheme, and it was to honor a soccer team. That was strange to start with because Americans don't really care about soccer. There's a following, but it's small. And they have an American National Soccer League, Major League Soccer. They call it Major League Soccer. And they play in the summertime. And they show it on television, and a few people watch it. And some people go to the games. The stadiums usually hold about 19,000, 20,000 people, which in comparison to U.S. football, it might be the stadiums, 19,000 would be a small stadium, a tiny stadium. You could have 80,000 seat stadiums. And even some of the college teams have 100,000 people. So, but whatever, they did it to honor our soccer team. Then, and that was in 2019. So this was introduced in 2019. Then they decided to upgrade, I guess you could say, upgrade and change the label design with new colors, and they even changed the bottle design. So here's the interesting part of the story, the more interesting part. I ran across this at a store in Jefferson Parish, once again, Jefferson Parish, and it was $9.99. Now, I thought it was a half-size bottle when I first, because the bottles look small anyway. And I thought, man, it ain't that great of a deal because it's like $35 for a regular bottle. And then I looked at it. I said, woof, 750 milliliters, 750 milliliters. I said, this is a deal. I didn't realize they had changed the label. And then my friend David was going wild. He was like, you bought me a bottle? I said, no, because I don't know what you want, really. But, and I was kind of like not thinking about it. So I apologize. But he said, oh, no, I'm buying that. Whoops, got the wrong label. I got to put it in the right glass. So he went over there, and this was right before Christmas time, or right close to Christmas, and he bought a bunch of bottles. I said, what? I said, why'd you need to buy 5 bottles? He said, 1 for me or 2 for him. He said, I bought a bunch more for gifts. I'm gonna give these to people. They're not gonna know it was $9.99. They're gonna look it up, maybe see, oh, $35. You bought a nice bottle, So I said, yeah, I can't blame you for that because I would do the same thing. And they're going, and they'll enjoy it because some of his relatives and friends are whiskey drinkers. So I thought that was a very smart move. Now, I only have my daughter who likes to drink alcohol, not much for beer, a little bit, not too much. But she likes gin. They make all kind of gin cocktails, her and her friends. They make gin cocktails. So I find different exotic gin brands, off the wall gin brands, and I give her gifts, and she always likes that, She got a huge table full of gin bottles. All right, the comments. Canada is okay. I still love this place. Yeah. Most of the time, Canada and United States is the same. Like you'll have an election and one party will win and another party will win, either or, but it'll always be like the same. Nothing ever changes. It'll be like the same policies. They'll say all these big changes, and then you say, well, it's the same. Now with with Trump, that's different. That's been a lot of big changes, but he's even an outlier in his own. Remember, his own party didn't like him. There was like a civil war within the Republican Party, and the establishment didn't like him. They were like, "No, we don't want you. We want the old guard. You know, wear a suit and a tie. Don't do much. Don't change much. You know, just the same old guys. They don't want to rock the boat." And then his people were more like the more, if you want to call it, disruptive element. We're going to change everything, and we're not kidding about it. We mean it. And then they started to think he really does mean it. This guy, you know, it's like in the movie Rocky. You know, this guy thinks it's a damn fight. He doesn't know it's a show. And so then that was when you started seeing all the hatred against him. Because before, you know, remember before 2015, he was like well liked by the major media. He was considered like a lovable clown. He did the television shows, and he was real in tight with the Clintons, if you remember, in the 90s. But when they started to perceive that he was really changing things, then you started to see the big, appropriate terminology, trumped up allegations and all of this. And I thought, yeah, well, naturally, he's the devil. But it was, and some of the people that used to schmooze him back in the 90s and 80s, they were like, oh, lovey-dovey. They started becoming very hostile towards him. And I'm like, well, you had him on your show, and y'all were like all glad-handing and everything. Okay. But that's funny, you know. But anyway, Canada looks beautiful. I want to visit, but I heard it's very expensive, same as Ireland now. I have been to Canada many times. I've been half of Canada, half their provinces. They have 10 provinces. I've been to half. I'd like to go to all, but, you know, it's just like time, effort, you know, how that works. Ronald, have you ever cooked in whiskey? You mean cooked with whiskey? No, I haven't. Joe Cobb, honey bourbon chicken is a thing. Yeah, I heard that before. Yes, after the scamdemic, it got very expensive, sadly. I call it the scamdemic. Used to be a lot better. Same here, Joe. Yeah, it was a lot cheaper when I used to go to Canada. Actually, I used to find it was a little cheaper than the United States with certain things. Cigarette prices were outrageously high, but they still all smoke. Everywhere I looked, I see Canadians that were smoking. It was like $20 a pack. Yeah, it was a scamdemic here in Canada, laughing out loud. All right, so we'll do the website. I'll show you all the websites. I'll say sites, plural. So here's Chivas Regal Extra 13. Now you see the new label design, blue and red instead of the black, yellow. There's some gold highlights. Same product. They didn't change the product. They just upgraded the branding, and it's no longer a dedicated team. Discover a world of flavor. Then there's a write-up about the flavor. And they finish a portion of the blended Scotch rye barrels. Not even the whole batch. It's just some of it they put in rye barrels to finish it in flavor. There's some young people. I agree. You ever notice advertisements? There's certain patterns in advertisements, and I think you're aware of what I mean. Like you're not supposed to notice stupid, you know. I notice everything, you know. I have a keen eye about things. Okay, and you notice the focus is on cocktails. There's one, and there's, which I don't know the name of those because I don't know much about cocktails, nor do I have any interest in it. Now, some people interpret that as being hostile to cocktails. I'm certainly not hostile. I'm just not interested. There's a difference between being disinterested and hostile. Now, there's the bourbon cask. And you see, you got the bourbon cask. And the sherry cask, and so forth. Tequila cask. They just taken the same whiskey, and they finishing part of it in different casks. So what they're doing is they're taking that they make, and they're extending it like it's a lot of products. It's Taco Bell. They take the same ingredients and they just flip it all around, and you think, man, look at their menu. They got like 50 different items. When you get down to it, It's really like 5 different, flipped around different ways. Now they got one called the Altus. Yeah, this is not going to be $35. This will be more like $235. So they've got products that are low end, if you want, mid range, $35. Just that's your American regular price for whiskey. Okay. But then they've got the upscale that are very, very high, like Chivas Regal 25. You don't even want to see that price. If you saw that price tag, you just wouldn't believe it. You'd probably get angry. But I've seen those. I've seen it around, usually locked in a case. And when I went to the airport, they had in England to the Heathrow Airport, they had some Chivas Regals that were not even listed on this website that were even more fancy pants that you got at the airport, and you had to pay some outrageous price. Here's the Chivas Brothers website. And then they go into all this detail, our history, and we are around for so long. And they got links to their Chivas line, their original, that's their original product. Valentine's, which they bought. They did not start it, but they bought it. And I forgot to show that yesterday. Very famous. Royal Salute, which is their product. That was started by them because it's really Chivas Regal Royal Salute. It's the actual, this designed as their very expensive line that people usually buy for like a wedding and they'll give it as a present. And a lot of times they'll never open it. They don't even drink. They're like, we don't drink whiskey. They just put it on the mantle by the fireplace just to show it, Maybe they'll let guests try it when they come over. But I mean, some people love it. And I tried it at the airport. The lady asked me, would you like to try Royal Salute? Well, did I? Of course I wanted to try it because I had never had a chance. And I didn't have to pay. It was a free sample. It was awesome, of course. And then they have the Glenlivet, which is their single malt. And that's an actual distillery. And so you could imagine what single malts are used to make these blended whiskeys? Well, ding, ding, ding. There's your answer. Sort of common sense. They're not going to buy other people's single malt when they own single malt. Although sometimes they will trade to get a certain flavor. They'll do trade. Now, here's some of the other products they have. Abalor, another single malt. So they're probably using that. And that's a distillery. 100 Pipers, I have that coming in later this week. Something Special. That's a brand that I think I've seen around. And then this one here that's not, it's like blocked out. I think it's called Passport. I don't know why it's blocked out. Maybe they dropped it and they didn't take it off. See how it's not showing up? Crazy, huh? All right. But I'm pretty sure that one's called Passport Scotch. And I used to see that one in Metairie, and then the store stopped selling it. I never got a chance to buy it. It's kind of a cheap one. But it was developed by Chivas Brothers in 1965 as a cheap one. Okay, all these liquor companies do the same thing. They all follow the same pattern. They put out cheap brands. And if you don't study it, you may never know who makes it. It'll be like, Scotch Distilling Company Limited, Legendary. It's like, I never heard of that company, but it's an alias name that Chivas using. And they don't want to put the name on it. Like Passport and all of these. They're not bad. They just, you might find a bottle of Passport for $12, or $18. And then they got the Chivas. That's their main line, $35, $40 a bottle. And then they'll have their super premium stuff, like the Abalor single malt, which I see a lot. And the Glenlivet, which is $50 and up. And then, or you'll see like Royal Salute. If you really want to lay down a few $100s, you see. Okay. Yeah, a lot of Canadians get smokes from the native reserves, though. Okay. I think that's a big industry in Canada, a black market industry, smuggling. What I read. Okay, these are both, no. This one in my left hand is much paler. Pale straw, which I'm thinking is I know that's the McCormick. It's very pale. I don't think they're adding any color into McCormick. Huge. Yeah, I read an article saying that drug dealing and drug smuggling is dangerous. Obviously, I didn't have to tell you that. But a lot of people got into cigarette smuggling. less heat, less danger. Apparently, I don't know. Maybe they have shootouts or something. But they say that's a big thing where they will come across the border from the United States selling cigarettes. I got a guy. He's got some. Buy it out the truck. I mean, I went to Canada and the cigarettes were $20 a pack at the time that you could still buy them in the United States for $3.27 a pack. No, I remember they were like $2.75. Yeah. So I mean, the cheap ones like Edge or Crowns, but that same brand, old cheap brand in Canada was $20 a pack, and over here it was $2.75 a pack. I'm like, yeah, I can see how, and they might smuggle them in and sell them for 12. They bought them for $2.27, sell them for 12 every pack. I mean, you're making millions of dollars doing that. But what do you expect? The government is encouraging it with their ridiculous prohibitionary tactics. Same thing happened with liquor, We're going to outlaw it. We're going to outlaw liquor. Yeah, well, saw how that worked out. The hidden hand always wins, Adam Smith talked about the hidden hand, which is his term for market pressure and mathematics, scientific. It's really a scientific fact. The price is gonna find its price. It's like water will find its level. So anyway, and I say all these things because this channel here, my channel, takes a free market approach, a free enterprise. So when you take a free enterprise approach, you can look at things and have a different perspective on it, and actually understand things you can understand things much better. Okay. It smells bready, but it doesn't smell like anything. Just bready whiskey. All right. Could be any whiskey. American, Canadian, Irish, Scotch. Just smells like generic. Actually took a sip. Yeah, same, but even more generic. So one has very little flavor or aroma, and the other one has seemingly no aroma. Should I be able to tell these apart? You would hope. You would hope. I would hope. Now remember, rye is kind of minty and spicy, like rye bread. It's kind of like a wintergreen or a peppermint. I don't know. It's not really like that, but you don't know how to. It's hard to explain the flavor to people that's not had it. So then you can't really. They have to try it, but you're trying to use terms that would relate to what you're tasting. It's like telling somebody what an artichoke tastes like. It's like, what does that taste like? And you can't explain it because it's a unique flavor. It doesn't really taste like anything else. Either you're going to like it or dislike it. Okay, I get that, but some of these flavors are unique. All right. This one seems to finish with a little bite, a little spicy bite. Yes. Is it American Rye Cask that they're using? I just looked at the website. I didn't see anything about American Rye. You could make rye whiskey. Oh, it says right on the bottle. Oh, wake up, dummy. Oh, the team. Oh, the soccer team that they were honoring is called Manchester United. Manchester United bottle. Okay, American Rye Cask. Got it. Don't know the rye whiskey company though. Oh, I'm sure they made a deal with somebody, so that's no big shock or surprise. Could have been Jim Beam rye for all I know. Could have been. I mean, that's a pretty widespread rye whiskey. Jack Daniels, but they stopped making the Jack Daniels rye. I don't think too many people bought it. Don't know why. I liked it. I love it, but You know, I liked Bud Dry. I used to like Bud Dry beer, but maybe only me liked it because it got discontinued. You could just didn't move. I mean, I would buy it in date, but it was a fail. Well, every product doesn't succeed, right? Like Kaboom cereal with the clown had clown faces. That was real popular in the '70s, really popular, and then it faded and it got discontinued in 2010. Kaboom, you know, real healthy, full of sugar, food coloring, you know. Oh man, but but yeah, you know, I think this is the McCormick in my left hand. It is. So that little tweak at the end did give it a differentiation. Now the big question is this: is the Chivas Regal really that much better? Yeah, because of the sin taxes. Yeah, that's what happens. Yeah, excise taxes, but sin tax. That's what happens when the government taxes something to that extent. Kaboom! Yeah, an explosion of sugar. But when you're a little kid, that's what you want. You know, children have children's tastes. Seem like they ought to bring it back as just like a one-time, you know, a throwback cereal. They do that sometimes, you know. General Mills could bring it back this month only. Kaboom! Probably people would buy it. And then, like they brought back the Fruit Brute, one of their Halloween monster cereals. They used to have a werewolf. It was called Fruit Brute. They brought that back about 6 years ago, but only for that year, and then it was gone again. Uh, so, last assessment. That was too big of a gulp. That wasn't a shot. That was a gulp. A lot of bread. A lot of bread. I think they're using a high percentage of Speyside single malt and a very tiny percentage of Isla for sure, because there's a little tingle of smokiness. But I mean, it's small. You know, you're not going to think this whiskey is either peaty or smoky, but it's just a glimmer of it. Yeah. Now, Chivas Regal 13 rye barrel rye cask finish in honor of Manchester United football team. It's better. It tastes better, but it's not that much better. It does not dominate it. It's not a one-sided contest. McCormick holds its own. I mean, it battles, so you'd have to evaluate that. You say, oh, is it really worth the $35? That's if you get it for 35. You might pay more. Or is this one a better for 18? You're getting a liter for 18 now, assuming you could find it, which is unlikely. Like I say, I think it's discontinued, but they still have it listed on Spec's website, and they ain't gonna list it if they don't have it. They'll even tell you what stores got it in stock. Um, hmm. Yeah, I think I'd save the money. Honestly, no knock against you, Chivas brothers. Don't hate me. But I would just save the money and get the McCormick. I'm gonna tell you, because I don't think you're benefiting that much more. You're paying 35. You know, you're paying $17 more. I don't even think it's $7 better. I forget 17. So I'm gonna have to give the win to McCormick. All things considered. All things considered. So in the final analysis, I think you're coming out ahead buying the McCormick. And you know, that's just I'm unanimous in that. You know, staying away from the hard stuff though. Yeah, good idea. I bought a bottle of Ballantine's a week or so ago. Yeah, Ballantine's is beautiful. Even Valentine's, is it really worth the extra $10? Well, yeah, it's probably $10 more regular bottles. I don't know. Maybe, maybe it's questionable. It's question. Sometimes it's clear cut. It's like, yeah, this cheap thing, pass, get the good stuff, But here it's like, no, no, wait a minute. You could come out ahead just saving the money. It's a trade off. You're going to lose a little. You're going to lose a little bit, but you're not losing $17 worth of value. No way. Okay, last comments. Joe Cobb says, here in Canada, since all booze is so pricey, a cheap 750 milliliter of vodka is $27 and blended scotch is like 34. Same here, but well, for blended scotch. But Valentine's in the United States, you could usually find about $23.99. True story. And some of these other scotch brands that are like kind of outliers from smaller companies, you can find $17. Nothing great, but not bad. Like, I challenge people to really honestly assess some of these and tell me it's really bad. It's not bad. I tried that Glen something. Everything is a Glen, in Scotland, all a Glen this, Glen that. Glen Logie, that's what it is, Glen Logie, which is the actual Glen in Scotland. And I read reviews, people talking about it tastes like nail polish and shoe polish. And I'm like, I don't think you ever tasted those things. But, real gasoline, and it's real extreme reviews. And I tasted it. I'm like, nah, no way. It doesn't taste like any of those things. And I got that for $9.99. $9.99 at Total Wine and More, just on the shelf. Wasn't a sale price. Now in Canada, like you're saying, Canada might have been $29.99. It was a crime. It's criminal. Anyway, have a nice day, Ron. I'm not going to get discouraged by politics. No, there's no use getting discouraged. Like I said, even conservatives probably weren't going to save this place. No, because in Canada, the conservatives are not really very conservative. They're more like less liberal liberals, like the Republican Party usually is in the United States. It's kind of like you got Socialist Party A and Socialist Party B in the U.S. and same in Canada. But then, here comes Trump with a different spin, and they're saying, oh, no, focus on my life and bettering myself. Take it. A good idea. Y'all take care, too. Thanks, everybody. Well, the winner, all things considered now, the winner is McCormick. You got to look at all the things I discussed. All right, take care, everybody. Next time, we're going to bring in another Chivas Brothers product. The 100 Pipers, very well known in India, not too well known in America. All right, bye-bye, everybody.